The bad news is time flies. The good news is that you are the pilot. This is a very popular quote by Michael Artiste. Hello guys, my name is Mandy and welcome to Dear Creators Podcast. On this podcast, I talk about the entertainment and creative industry through the experiences and the stories of those in the industry and equipping you with the right knowledge you need to conquer the industry in whatever capacity you are functioning in the industry. Welcome. On today's episode, we'll be looking at the story of a certain young lady, an upcoming artist in Nigeria, West Africa, and a story to finding the right label to sign with to improve and move her music career forward. For the sake of the podcast, she has asked that identity isn't revealed. I met this young lady last year and she told me her story and her experience in the entertainment industry. I felt bad because the same story she has, I bet that similar artists within Nigeria, outside Nigeria, across the world also have the same story. Let's get straight to it. She gave me the story of how she met the record label she was signed to before deciding to carry on her music career as an independent artist. She met the record label through a management company or a group of guys that formed the management company after meeting her with the intention of taking her career to the next level. She got so excited, introduced her producer friend who she's worked with through her career so far to ensure that both of them get the same deal from the record label. Now they presented them with the deal and gave them just 2 days to look at the contract and say if they're okay with the contract or not. Now, without having an entertainment lawyer or someone that knows about the music business, she thought the contract was good enough and she agreed. And although she had some issues about the contract, on the day of the signing, she came and she tried to raise issues, and then the guys from the management team said, hey, if you don't sign this contract now, then we're taking the deal out. And for an upcoming artist that struggled on the street for so long and was so eager to sign or to be under a record label to make her career or to make the stress of her career easier on her and to advance and take her career to the next level, she signed the contract. But then her mind wasn't still at peace with the contract. So immediately she found out about an entertainment lawyer around her area. She took the contract to the entertainment lawyer to look at it and know if it's okay. Plus, according to her, some other things were not adding up with the way the business was being done in the record label. So the person looked at the contract and revealed some shocking information that she never knew about. Number one, the terms on the contract was for 13 years, which means she was tied to the contract for 13 years. The contract basically seemed like an employment-based contract and not like a record label standard contract. The contract never had a termination clause, and the contract was so one-sided that it never laid out plans of promotion or anything that the record label was going to do for her. And at the same time, everybody in the contract, everybody in the company, everybody in the record label was getting a piece of her income, with the record label still getting the shark share and her getting basically 25%, even down to her stylist gets a percentage cut of her income, stylist and secretary. Now, looking at the contract and hearing what the entertainment lawyer told her, she went back and sat her boss down, or she went back and requested for a meeting, and she talked to the boss and told the boss that this contract wasn't really working and that if you're going to go ahead with the contract, then they have to review the contract to ensure that both parties are satisfied. Immediately she brought up the topic of reviewing the contract. The management guys started acting shady and said that they were no longer interested in doing the deal with her. And the way everything was going, the record label decided fine, let's just dissolve the entire thing and move on, which was her saving grace. So then I asked her, what actually ticked you off? What made you start seeking for an opinion after signing the contract? She said that the fact that people were earning from her income and that she wasn't even entitled to so much. That she looked at it and realized that by the time she finished offsetting the bills and the recoupable costs from production, promotions, and other advances, that she had barely nothing coming back to her, which made her to start looking into the contract. Now, that was very good for her to do that, but not every artist in the industry will have such problem with their contract. So it's necessary for you to understand the important clauses that should be in the contract, or blankly just get an entertainment lawyer to work with, and that will save you a lot of grace. Now, just as every other entertainer, she was more concerned about her money, and the fact that the money part didn't sit well was why she sought for a second opinion. So one, the contract was for 13 years. Now a lot of people will shout, is that even legal? Well, she signed it. Let me break down how the 13 years came to be. The contract was for the first stay of 5 years, and the second part of it, which was a very funny but not really funny part, was the fact that the record label had an irrevocable power to renew the contract for 2 consecutive terms of 4 years each, which means except if the record label or the parties decide to terminate the contract, she didn't have any say on whether the contract was going to be renewed or not. It's an irrevocable power to renew the contract. And then there was no even option to review. Now let's look at this. You signed at the beginning when you were eager just as hard to blow, and when you barely had a penny to your name. You agreed that you're going to be collecting 20% of your income. And then 10 years down the lane, you're now a very big deal in the industry, and making a lot of money, and to an extent, no, not even to an extent, that warrants you a proper review of your contract. So the more money you're getting, the more your cut is, and then you're still getting the chicken change of 20%, and everybody around is feeding off your success without you getting any. Now, whatever ridiculous agreement you signed at the beginning, or whatever ridiculous clause you agreed on when you were very, very eager, is what you're going to be hooked with, is what you're going to be tied down to till the 13 years elapses. So some people might say, oh, well, I don't think anyone will say, oh, maybe the deal could have actually been juicy at the end, because it's 13 freaking years we're talking about. 13 years, within 1 year, a lot of things can change. So why the hell will you sign 13 years of your life? Like I said earlier, Michael said, time flies, but you're the pilot. Yes, 13 years will go by, but it's left to you to decide what the 13 years is going to be all about, to decide what you want to achieve within the 13 years. Now, I feel like I've hammered on the time so much. Now I'm going to move on. Now, giving you a contract without a promotion plan, or giving you a one-sided contract. One thing you need to understand is that contract, the art of contract, is offer and acceptance. And in between offer and acceptance is negotiation. Now, I offer you a piece of cake. It's left to you to say, oh, thank you, I love cake. Or no, I don't like cake. Or yes, I like cake, but not this particular type. That is the negotiation. But what I noticed in the industry is point blank, take and receive. So because you offered 10 naira, I have to receive 10 naira. Have you ever tried if that 10 naira could actually be 10,000? Have you ever tried if the 10 naira can actually be 20 naira? That is the art of negotiation. Now, when negotiating, this is what we call bargaining power, which means the power you have to push the contract, the power you have to sway the contract into falling to your own desires or what you want. Now, an upcoming artist that barely has track record, let me put it that way, or barely has much to show about what he or she has done in the industry, might not have as much bargaining power as certain other artists who has been working and grinding in the industry and has had accolades to their name would, because then their worth is different. Now, as an upcoming artist, sorry I have to say this, but you're more of a liability than an already established artist. Now with you, the record label might run into debts, they might make profits. But with the big shot, they are sure of profit. That's why the bargaining power seems to stagger. But then you never know how much power you have till you try. Never accept point blank whatever you're giving, especially when you're not comfortable with it. Even if at the end of the day you don't achieve what you want, of which you have to understand that contract is not about lose or win. It's about a win-win situation where both parties are happy. So even if at the end of the day you did actually get the exact beautiful model contract you are looking forward to, at least you tried. And then understand, if you try to push for something that you feel is necessary for your career, or something you know that just has to be there, and then the record label or the other party, let me not just use record label this time, the other party don't want to move, which means if you accept the offer they are giving you, your career is going to suffer. Please walk away from the contract. Please walk away from the deal. Walking away from a deal has never killed anyone. Walking away from contract has never restricted anyone's career. It might give you some certain setbacks, might make you not move to the next level at the time you expected or you planned that you are going to move, but then doesn't mean you move eventually. So you need to understand that contract is offer and acceptance, and you must not accept everything you're offered. Learn to negotiate, or better still, get a badass entertainment lawyer to negotiate the shit out of a deal to suit you. You know, you have some dope lawyers around in the country. So I'll move to the other issue. Now, having a contract, I'm saving the best for the last, which is the part of the income sharing. So if you're waiting for me to go into it now, grab a seat, grab a pen and notepad and sit down, because that will be the juicy last part. Well, the third thing I have to talk about is signing a contract without termination or alternative dispute resolution. Let me not just say alternative dispute resolution, but then a dispute resolution plan. Like, no one is hoping or praying for a conflict, but if it actually arises, what is the plan and how will it be solved? And then having a contract without a termination clause, really, what's that? Now, everything that has a beginning has an end. A particular thing mustn't die a natural death. But then both parties can decide, hey, it's time for us to walk away. I think a contract, my belief is that a contract without a termination clause, not only does it show bad faith on the part of the offering party of the contract, but also it ends badly, because then by the time the other party that accepted the contract realizes the fact that he's stuck, it just always leads to bad blood. And that's when we now have social media justice, people jumping around social media, calling out their other party, calling out record labels and their bosses in the business. I don't encourage that, but hey, if that's what you have to do to get your justice, then fine, the court of public opinion awaits you. But then what I'm trying to say is, if you're given a contract and it doesn't have a termination or a dispute resolution clause, then that contract is awfully bad. Now, because it's bad, as I talked about on that offer and acceptance and negotiation, doesn't mean you have to say, oh, I'm not signing this, or oh, I'm not doing a deal with you. Hey, that's bad faith. No. It means that you're supposed to call the attention of the offering party and say, hey, please can you insert a termination clause and a dispute resolution clause? And this is the way I would actually love it to go. What do you think about that's easy like that? Communication, of which that's another thing I'm going to say, but I think I'll leave that to ending this podcast. Now I'm moving to the juicy part, which a lot of you has been waiting for, and that is the part of the income sharing. Now, what the hell will my income be going to? Stylist and secretary? Like, hell, what do they know about my music career? Like, why would that even be happening? Well, I think that's the reaction the girl had, and if that's not the reaction she had, well, I'm having it on her behalf. Your income is supposed to be only shared between you and the record label, especially in situations where the management is under the record label. Now, if you have a different manager, or your management is independent, that is peculiar to just you, he or she is servicing just you and not under the record label, then the income can be shared 3 ways between you, the record label, and the management. Or better still, a bigger share is given to you, knowing in mind that you are going to share your own cut with the record label. So one, ensure that the part of the income sharing. Now, I've seen a lot of crazy record label deal contracts that just put a particular percentage cut for all incomes. I don't believe in that. I feel that all income outlets or inlets break down. So your percentage for endorsement should definitely not be the same thing for percentage from sales. Shouldn't be the same thing from percentage for royalties or percentage for social media appearances or something. So your contract should break it down. But hey, don't go about sharing your money with people that don't contribute at all. Now, for the stylists can be paid based on each work or each service rendered, or better still, be under the employment and the payment of the record label, but definitely not from your purse. I hope you hear me. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. If there's nothing else that you take out of this, I would say guide your money just like she did. And also in the contract, I don't think her contract stated this, but then I'll always advise, for the sake of transparency and for the sake of accountability, ensure that your record label deal has a clause for auditing and accounting. Now, with that, the issue of income sharing, or the issue of one person deceiving the other party based on how much he or she earned and how much is remaining or how much has to go to the artist, that kind of issue can be offset. That kind of issues can actually be removed from existence, if I want to put it that way. So the take home from this podcast is, have an entertainment lawyer before signing a record label deal. Give your contract to a proper entertainment lawyer to review before signing a contract. And then any contract being forced, or anybody that forces you to sign a contract, which we will say is under duress, I think that's just bad faith. Be careful, don't sign that. Contract is about offer acceptance, or better still, offer negotiation and acceptance. But the most important thing to take home from this entire podcast is communication. Now, she didn't come on social media to start calling out her record label that they did this or did that, because from the story she shared with me, her record label boss, the executive, didn't even know really what was going on. The man was new to the music business. He just launched the record label because he was interested in helping her and her career. So she could have easily run to social media like most modern day artists do, as we see on Instagram and Twitter, but she didn't do that. She went to the record label execs and said, oh please, I would really love to have a meeting with you guys. I would like to have a chat with you about my record label. Open conversations. I think we need to have conversations in this industry. We need to have conversations. Now, I think I'm overshooting here. I'm going so far. Now, coming back to what I'm talking about, all I'm saying is that if something seems not to be going right, or something seems off between you and whoever you're working with in the entertainment or creative industry, learn to communicate. Reach out to the person in the easiest and most peaceful, understanding way possible. I'm not saying walk to the person and start shouting on the person, or send a very provoking text message or email to the person, or insulting the person without intending to. So ensure that you talk to the person in a very, very peaceful and a controversy, no, not controversy, sorry. Speak to the person in a peaceful and conversational, provoking way. Now, the purpose of speaking to the person is to be able to strike a conversation so that the person can understand your point of view, and then an end will be reached. So, yes, guys, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, then I'll love you to stick around and expect the episode 2 coming soon. I'm new to this whole podcast business, so definitely I'm sticking around for a very long time. I can assure you of that. But then you should know that you can also send in your story. So if you listen to the podcast or come around or come through, or I'm going to finish on the English, so or find this podcast somewhere, then I'll say you can easily send your own experience via email to us at dearcreatorpod@gmail.com, and we'll definitely share your story for the growth and, well, I think you know the rest, for the good of the industry and people in the industry. We're working together collectively to make the industry a very productive and understanding environment for everyone involved. So send in your stories, send in your experiences, talk to me about it. And also remember, if you want your identity to be hidden, just as this young lady's own words, please indicate. If not, I may be just tempted to call out your name on the podcast. Thanks so much for listening. My name is Mandy, and this is the Creator Podcast. Until next time, take care of yourself. Bye.